Cycling is a non-weight bearing sport with little or no impact, whereas running is a weight bearing sport that actually has impact on every stride, as much as 5 to 7 times your body weight. So is there any way in which these two sports can complement each other?
Well, clearly as triathletes we can't escape the need to do both. Now, having spent quite a bit of time around cyclists, I know that they particularly dislike the idea of running because of the effects it has on their cycling. So today we thought we'd take a closer look at this and explore the impact of running on our cycling.
Running can actually help your cycling, and admittedly it's a different movement, but you're still going to be using one leg at a time and working your cardiovascular system. And on top of that, there are quite a few other pros which we're going to cover.
Now, compared to cycling, running creates a far greater load on our cardiovascular system for any given period of time. So in simplest terms, if we're running for an hour, it's going to cause an awful lot more stress on our CV system than riding for that same period. So essentially, we get fitter quicker when we're running.
Running is time efficient. Simply put, you get good bang for your buck for a short period of time. So say you don't have much time or you haven't got your bike, all you need is a pair of trainers. You can go out for a run and get a really intense workout. And if you're traveling, it's also really great because you just need to pack your trainers. Several recent studies have shown that cyclists actually have lower bone density than the control group or the general public who don't do any exercise, which is pretty shocking findings and probably something you don't really want to know.
Yeah, but it isn't all bad news, thankfully, because it's been shown that cyclists who supplement their cycling with running have a lower bone degradation over time, and this just lessens the chances of broken bones, stress fractures, or any other health-related problems associated with low bone density.
Everyday skills such as balance and proprioception aren't necessarily utilised that much on the bike, but when it comes to running, they certainly are, and especially when it comes to off-road.
Now, running helps to develop these balance skills through our feet, our ankles, our knees and our hips, and in particular that improves our reaction times as we move across different types of terrain. And these improvements in our balance and proprioception can really have an effect on our handling skills, particularly on the bike. So for many athletes, solely riding a bike can cause them to have a lack of engagement in certain muscle groups, and for a lot of others it's simply a lack of core strength that allows them to produce their peak power on the bike. And with the exception of a poor fitting bike fit, the majority of body problems from cycling stem from these muscle imbalances or just a lack of appropriate core strength.
Yeah, so by incorporating running into your training, you are naturally most more likely to be activating those glutes and hamstring muscles, which will then in turn actually help you when you come back to the bike because it's going to make you more efficient in the pedal stroke. Well, we've covered a lot of the positives of that impact of running on cycling. There are a few cons that you need to consider as well.
There are, and firstly, that weight-bearing benefit we were talking about earlier can actually become a little bit of a negative if we're not careful and mindful of the running volume that we're building up.
Yeah, if you speak to pretty much any runner or triathlete, at some point in their career, they're likely to have had a lower limb injury. And that's probably as a result of increasing their training volume too quickly. So remember that 10% rule that we've talked about a lot on GTN. If you stick to that and only increase your training volume at a nice steady state, you should be able to stay injury-free.
So running does what it says on the tin, right? Well, there is unfortunately no escaping the simple fact that replicating a bike-specific workout with a run equivalent just isn't going to be possible.
Yeah, there's another downside to the crossover here. You're obviously using different muscle groups. Now, partly because of the position, obviously cycling, you're sat down, running, you're standing up, and the biggest difference there being that angle at the hips, which is really going to make a difference in your muscle recruitment. If you're coming from a cycling background, the thought of losing some of those hard-earned watts can be a little depressing. But if you are new into the sport of triathlon, you're going to be supplementing some of those bike sessions with run sessions, especially hard ones, you're quite likely to see that power drop off, or actually up to as much as 30 watts or even more. Don't just drop your runs in anywhere in your training schedule. Think about the overall picture, because a hard run either the night before or the day of a bike ride could seriously affect that bike workout.
Yeah, so just taking a little bit of time to think about where you place your workouts in your overall training plan can make the world of difference. Now, it isn't necessarily intuitive to think of running as a tool to help improve our cycling, but with a sensible approach, there can be some positive effects. Yeah,
and as triathletes, that's certainly encouraging to hear. If you like that fact, and in actual fact, if you like the video, give us a thumb up and hit the globe to subscribe so you get all of our videos here at GTN. And if you want to see a video on how to train for a marathon, we've got some tips for you down here.
And to see a video about top 4 bike workouts, you can get that here.